Hello and welcome to C# tutorials for beginners. I am Ajit Srivastava and this is part 22 where we will be discussing about namespace in C#. So in this session we will be seeing what is namespace and what all the benefits that we get from using the namespace. Right? So what is namespace? A namespace is basically used to segregate one set of names from another, right? So that a class name declared in one namespace does not conflict with the same class name which is declared in another namespace. We'll see an example and then maybe we'll come to this definition. It will be more clear with that. Okay. So with that, let's directly go to Visual Studio. So this is a sample console application that we have. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll take a scenario where what we'll do is I'll ask developer 1 to write a piece of code. Okay. And also there is another developer, let's say developer 2. I assign some task to him as well. Okay. So their task is they will be giving you a set of class, let's say one class only that will be using in this program. Okay. So what will happen is developer 1 will start working on its own class, developer 2 will start working on its own class, right? So one way to add those classes is you can simply right click on the project, okay, and add. Here you can select class, right? So instead of having all the code here, you can have those code in different page. Okay, so what developer 1 will do is he will come here, he will simply say add class. Okay, so here it will come as class and you can give any name there, right? So let's say I'm saying, let's say he's using the default one, class 1, right? Add it. So he added here, you can see here is class 1 got added. Okay, and so here you can see namespace is hello world, class is class 1, right? So since this project name is hello world, that's why by default these codes got generated and the namespace by default it is using as hello world. Okay, since we are not using this, remove this. Okay, now let's say at the same time developer 2 also came and he is adding a class with name class 2. Add it. But instead of having this class as class 2, let's say he created as class 1. Okay. Now, if you'll see, class 1 is here. Now, let's say have some implementation is class 1. Let's have a property in just for coding perspective. Let's say string property 1. Okay. Let's have simple getter setter. Okay. In this also, let's say user wants to have public, let's say here integer int prop get set. Okay, so till now what happened is developer 1 give you this page. Okay, developer 1 gives you this page, or basically if you'll see in actual development page will not be given. What will happen is this project will be shared among all and everyone will modify their own version and at the single place they will check in those. So we'll see those things later on. For simplicity sake, you understand that this page, this class1.cs page having a class called class 1 which is having a property called prop1 is given by developer 1. Developer 2 worked on this page. Okay, developer 2 worked on this page. He also created a class called class 1 having a integer property like this. Okay, now what happened is these two developers shared these two classes to developer 3 who is working on this program, basically who is working on this page. Okay, now I want to use this class 1 and class 2, right? So what third developer will do is he will simply say class 1. So class 1, let's create an object, class 1 equals new of class 1, something like this, right? Now let's say class 1 dot integer property equals, let's say 10. I'm simply using it. Okay. Now let's try to run this. You can see there is a build failure. So there is a compile time error we are getting. Let's click on no. You can see the namespace hello world already contain a definition of class 1. So what it is trying to say is, so by default the namespace that we are using is hello world, right? So within this namespace, developer 1 has added a class called class 1, right? Now within the same namespace, developer 2 is also trying to add a class called class 1, right? Now when we try to create an object here, right, and we are using the same namespace, compiler will get confused like which namespace, which class 1 it should be referring to, whether it is provided, whether it should use the class 1 provided by developer 1 or they should use a class 1 provided by developer 2, right? So this is the problem. Then how we can resolve this problem? So what we can have is, we can have a separation using namespace. Okay. So what we'll do is, what all the code that developer 1 will write, right, this page, he will have those code under one namespace. So what we'll say, let's say the namespace that developer 1 is trying to give is developer 1. I'm just giving this for understanding purpose. It should be a meaningful name based on what all the logic he is writing or based on the module on which the developer 1 is working on. So based on that, it's good to have the namespace name, but for understanding purpose we are giving developer 1, right? Similarly, developer 2, what he can do is, he will say developer 2. Now you can see developer 1 given the all his code which resides in namespace developer 1. Developer 2 gave his all his code which resides in developer 2. So here he can have as many classes or as many logic that he can want, right? So class, let's say we have class 2 from developer 2, right? Something like this, correct? Now if we'll come here, so if you'll see, I am third developer, right? I am working in namespace hello world. Now it is saying the type or namespace class 1 could not be found. I am using hello world namespace, and within this namespace class 1 is not defined, which is correct, right? Because class 1 is defined within developer 1 namespace, and this class 1 is defined in developer 2 namespace. Due to that, we are not able to find any class 1 within namespace hello world. Then how we can use it? So one option to get this is add the namespace name here. So we'll say developer 1 dot class 1. Here also developer 1 dot class 1. Now if you'll see, it is not giving any error. We are clearly specifying that I want to use class 1 which is given in or which is defined in developer 1 namespace. Okay, so that issue is gone now. But here if you'll see developer 1 namespace, the class 1 is having prop 1, right? So what we are doing here is, we are creating an object of class 1 provided by developer 1. Okay, and the property that developer 1 has given is not in prop, he has given prop 1, right? Since it's a string, we should be able to do this, correct? Now let's say if you want to create object of class 1 provided by developer 2, what you have to do is, first of all refer to the namespace of developer 2 and then you can create the class. Then you can access the class, right? Class, let's say 2 equals new of developer 2 dot class 1, like this. Now again you can say class 2, here we will get int properties. right? So this is the benefit of using namespace, right? So namespace basically used to segregate the names, right? So class 1, we can have multiple classes having name class 1 only when if they are part of different namespace, and at the time of using those classes you have to provide the namespace explicitly. Okay, now let's say we don't want to use this developer1 here again and again. Can we have some shortcut? Yes, we can have. You can simply say using developer1. As in when you add here, even though if you will not add here, it's fine, right? So at the beginning only I am saying that if certain things is not available, also refer to this namespace. So what all the classes defined within this developer namespace, please include those as well. Due to that reason, whenever we will try to refer to class 1, it will try to refer to developer1. What if we'll add this as well? Using developer2. As in when you say developer2, again your compiler will get confused because you have not clearly mentioned which class 1 I have to refer to, right? So due to that reason it started giving error here. So if there is any conflict, you should make sure that you provide one here and one wherever you are using, or the best practice is don't give here and you always give here, so that at the time of reading we'll simply come to know which class we are trying to refer to, right? Okay, so now if you can see here in our code, since beginning we are using this using system, right? So the way we used using developer1, same way system is nothing but a namespace. And why we used to have this? If we'll remove this, you'll start seeing error here. That means the way our class 1 was defined in developer1 namespace, and we were not adding that namespace here, we were getting the error, right? Similarly, now compiler is not aware where this console class is defined. So what you can do is you can simply say system here, the way we did for developer, right? You can directly say I want to use console class from system namespace, then also it will work. Otherwise you can simply remove from here and you can have that name here until unless you have the conflict, right? So namespace you can basically incorporate in your code using two way. One is just have using statement here, right? But many a times if that namespace is having same classes name which is being said with another namespace, that time instead of having that statement here, you can have simply like here, right here, or whatever the way we have used, like, right? So this is namespace for you. Now let's see. So a namespace is used to segregate one set of names from another, right? So that a class name declared in one namespace does not conflict with the same class name declared in another, right? So what we had is class 1 was declared in namespace developer1 and class 1 was declared in namespace developer2. Just by using the namespace, we were able to avoid that conflict and we were able to instruct the compiler which class we want to refer to, right? So namespace is basically used to segregate the code, and you can say that namespace is basically used to modularize your code for a particular module, right? So let's say module 1 I am working, so it's better to give certain a meaningful name related to module 1. Similarly, if some person is working on module 2, it's better to give some meaningful name for module 2 as a namespace. Okay, if you have any question, please comment. I'll try to answer your question. Please like this video, share and subscribe as well. Click on the bell icon if you want to receive the notification whenever I publish the new videos. Okay, So with that, thanks for watching. Have a good day.